Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? Thank you, Laura. I just want to check my audio here. Can somebody speak, please? I've got to chat here, which is good, but thank you. I'm not on my usual computer here. All right, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to deal with density today. It's a fairly simple module, a lot less complicated than last week's where we had to deal with a bunch of stuff to do, especially with significant figures. Now, there is some significant figure stuff in here, and I'll definitely be showing you the niceties of that. All right, so about density, well, we know it's mass divided by volume. And we have some other ways of fixing that and getting other things like the volume. The volume is going to be the mass divided by the density. And the mass is going to be the density times the volume. So the way we're getting that is just by rearranging the formula here. And you can see that if we take the V up the top and we put the density down the bottom, we'll get volume, and mass is going to be density times volume. But those are easy enough to get if you've already got the density formula. Now, as far as the units go, it's going to depend, but a milliliter and a cubic centimeter are the same thing. Sorry about that. A milliliter and a cubic centimeter are the same thing. Let me silence that. And if you're dealing with volumes of liquids, usually it's milliliters. If you're dealing with solids, it's usually cubic centimeters, but a cubic centimeter and a mil are the same thing. Now, as far as units go, I can show you that when we get onto some examples here. So this is a fairly simplistic example. We want to know the density of something that weighs 100.0 grams and has a volume of 20.0 mils. If we do that, then we'll end up getting 5.00 grams per mil. Now, as far as significant figures go, since this is division, it goes by the smallest number of significant figures. This is 4 and this is 3, so the answer comes out to 3. Remembering these zeros are going to be necessary in order to get it up to 3 significant figures. Since it's grams and mils, we're more likely to use grams per mil as the unit, but these other ways of expressing the unit are also valid. you'll notice that we have grams per cubic centimeter or grams centimeters to the -3. The reason for that negative power is because it's on the bottom. And whenever we have something on the bottom, a power always becomes negative. Likewise here, grams mil to the -1 is the same as grams per mil. Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay, so we have some interactive exercises.
No, I don't.
Sorry. Sorry.
I was saying no, I don't. I'm sorry, I was muted. I was trying to answer you. My apologies.
Okay, no worries, Melissa. So we've got some interactive exercises here where we're looking for mass and then volume. And again, you know, we're looking at the significant figures. I'll look at this mass one here. So we get density times volume. And you notice we come out, we've got 4 sig figs and 2 sig figs here. So the answer comes out to 2 sig figs, which means it's going to be 3,600, but it was 3,618 in the calculator. And it comes out to 3,600. Now those zeros aren't significant, but they need to be there in order to show us the size of that number. The other way of expressing it would be 3.6 times 10 to the 3 grams. But that's how we'd end up getting those, the 2 significant figures out of that. Any questions? Okay. Let's look at what else we're doing here. Okay, let's look at what happens if we're dealing with the densities of solids. Now, there's 2 formulas that I'm sure you're aware of for the volumes of solids. One is the volume of a cube, which is psi cubed, and the other one is volume of a block, which would be, or a prism, which is length times width times height, which is really the same formula for a cube, but what makes a cube special is the fact that all the sides are the same size. So let's look at how we deal with something like that. So the density of a cube, side 2.1 centimeters, 34.0 grams. Now we know what the mass is, 34.0 grams. Now what we need to do is get the volume of that cube. Now you'll notice that I take this out to the maximum number of places on my calculator that I possibly can, and not convert this down to 2 significant figures. I do convert it to 2 significant figures at the end though. And the reason we're doing this is because everything here is a multiplication and division. So it goes by the smallest number of significant figures. To look for that, go back to the problem and find the smallest number of significant figures in the problem, and that will tell you how many sig figs you need in your answer. But don't do any rounding until you get to the very end. Otherwise, if you round twice, you're subject to getting a double rounding error. A single rounding error is fine, but not a double rounding error. Does anybody have any questions? We can do the same thing with a rectangular block, and you'll notice that we're given the dimensions of that. When you multiply all the centimeters together, of course, you get cubic centimeters. Centimeters times centimeters times centimeters. I should have mentioned that previously. And that's why the unit at the end is going to be grams per cubic centimeter. So if you look at the number of significant figures in the problem, the smallest one is this one, 2.5, which is 2 sig figs, which is why this comes out to be 0.94 grams per cubic centimeter. And again, you would wait to do your rounding to 2 sig figs until the very end of the problem. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, now these problems here are a little bit more intense when it comes to the sig figs. Now the reason for that is because what we're doing here is mixing operations. This is, oops, sorry. This is what we need to do when we're dealing with the dealing with the density of an irregular solid. So let's say we've got a stone here. So what you would do is you'd have a graduated cylinder. It's not a very straight graduated cylinder, I'm sorry about that. And you have this stone here. And the graduated cylinder has a little bit of water in it. Well, enough water certainly to cover the stone. The stone goes in, and then what happens, of course, is that the level of the water in the graduated cylinder goes up. The stone's in the bottom here. And what we're dealing with here is a difference in volumes here, and that will give us, of course, the volume of the stone. That means we're required to do a subtraction here before we do our division, which means that what distinguishes this case from the previous case we were looking at is that now we're mixing operations. We're doing a subtraction and then a division. That's going to require us to do something different with the significant figures. So I'm going to have to get the significant figures from the addition first and then apply it to the division in the second step. The reason for this is because, as we discussed last week, the rules for addition and subtraction are different from the multiplication and division rules. The addition-subtraction rule states that we go by the number of places past the decimal point, whereas multiplication and division goes by straight significant figures. So if you've got 12.3 mils and 15 mils, we do 15 mils minus 12.3, which comes out to 2.7 in the calculator. But in order to obey the significant figure rules for subtraction, we go with the smallest number of places past the decimal point, which would be none. So this comes out to be 3 mils. We take that 3 mils then and we divide it into the mass that we're given, and this comes out to be one significant figure. As you can see, this is different to what we did in the previous problem, where we took all of these, multiplied them together, and we didn't handle the significant figures till the end. The difference here is that this was all straight multiplication division. There was no addition subtraction at all, so I had to handle it at the end to prevent double rounding. Unfortunately, in these kinds of problems, when we're doing a subtraction, we have to handle this by doing the subtraction first, getting the significant figures from that, and then getting the significant figures from the other part by doing the division. Does anybody have any questions? Usually people do. This is it seems like it's a little crazy because I have to handle the significant figures a bit differently. Okay. Now, problem 7. So what we're doing here is we're finding the density of a liquid. Now, the idea is that we have a graduated cylinder, and then we put some liquid in it. And we know how much liquid we put in it because we have a certain volume. And we also know what the mass of this empty was. M empty. And this would be M full. So we can get the mass of the liquid by subtracting, again, the full and the empty. So the empty from the full, obviously. So it looks like this. We've got 14.9 mils of liquid, 150.0 grams, and 175.05 grams. So we do the subtraction here, the full minus the empty, we come up with 25.1. So you'll notice that if in the calculator it would have been 25.05 or 24.05, which would have rounded then to 25.1. That's right, yeah, 25.05 is what it would have been. And then we round that, it becomes 25.1. And again, it's number of places past the decimal, 2 places, 1 place. So this comes out to be 1 place past the decimal. And then we divide the 25.1 by the 14.9. That comes out to be 1.68. Now this is going to be 3 sig figs over 3 sig figs. And again, we're taking this mass directly from here and using it in our division. All right, so any questions about that? So we handled the sig figs with this one the same way as we handled the previous one, because again, we're mixing operations. We're doing a subtraction followed by a division. And the rest of it's fairly easy. That's pretty much it. I mean, that's as difficult as it gets right there. Does anybody have any questions about the?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So when you're actually trying to find an answer, how do you know when exactly to round up? Like, I'll get an answer and it'll be, say, 80.0 or like 80.1.
Well, the thing is, it depends on the problem, Tristan. If it's a block problem, like we dealt with first, you do all the rounding at the end because it's all multiplication division. But if it involves a subtraction, then you have to round after the subtraction and then again after the division.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All right, let me show you. Let me show you the assignment here. I just want to show you a couple of things with the assignment. Make sure that you're understanding what you need to do with it. So it is a matching exercise. And I'm just going to point out some of the things that you will need to do here. Now, the thing you've got to be careful of is to make sure that the units cancel to give the unit you have at the end. So make sure that you choose the correct one here. And now remember, when you're doing this, you've got the unused answer. So you'd have to go whatever one was, which let's see, it's going to be this. Okay, so this will be number 1. This will be the grams. This will be the density, and this will be the unused answer. And you do have to put the unused answer in. Sometimes there's more than one unused answer as well. So be careful with that. Now, in situations, excuse me, in situations like number 3, where you need a mass, you notice you have to multiply things together. Now, technically, it could be density times volume or volume times density. However, in the problem, I actually have got this already assigned as being the volume. So number 1 is the volume, the 200.0 mils, which means you have to figure out what goes in number 2. Now, I give a specific gravity. Now, specific gravity is the same as density. It just doesn't have any units. It's the density compared to the density of water, which is 1 gram per mil. So it's grams per mil divided by grams per mil, which means it doesn't have any units. However, when you're dealing with something like this, then the 11.4 will go for 11.4 grams per mil, not just 11.4. And again, the reason is because we want to make sure that we have mils times grams per mil, which gives grams. So again, we want those units. We want those units to be okay. Does anybody have any questions? Well, that's pretty much it, folks, as far as all this goes. I will show you the practice quiz. And I think we'll end up calling it a day unless anybody has any burning questions about density. You have to be a bit careful with Sig Figs here. That's where a lot of people end up getting points off here because they don't obey the Sig Fig rules that we talked about. But the setup's very similar to what you've seen before for Module 3, for example, where you type in what these are, leave a space between the number and the unit in each case, come up with the answer, and make sure the answer has the right number of significant figures. If you get it checked right, but you get, say, 9 out of 10 for the problem, it's probably because you put the wrong significant figures in your answer. It's an acceptable answer, but it wasn't acceptable as far as significant figures go. And you'll notice that for all of these here. So be careful, especially with these ones that involve a subtraction and then a division afterwards. All right, well, that's pretty much it. Does anybody have any questions? Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, Richard.
Do you mind like showing me an example of a significant figure? Because I sometimes get confused with one of the questions that you have up right now. Do you mind going through one of those for me?
I'll do 2, okay, Tristan?
Okay, thank you.
One of each off the practice quiz, okay?
Okay.
And these are 2 different cases. They're going to give you 2 different significant figure rules, okay? Let's see how that goes. So let's look at this one. Let me move this back here. Okay. A student adds 18 mils of water to a graduated cylinder, cork stopper of mass 10.00 grams. The new volume reads 28 mils. What was the density of the stopper? So we need 2 things here. We've got density equals mass over volume. Now the mass is going to be 10.00 grams. We already know that. The volume, though, is going to be 28 mils minus 18 mils. You with me so far, Tristan?
Yes, I got it. So would you just subtract the 28 by the 18 and then do the density?
You'll get this, right? In your calculator, it'll come out to this, 10, right?
Yes.
But the answer is actually 10 dot.
See, that's where I get confused at. See, I don't know, like, if it's, like, just a flat-out 10 or, like, 10 dot or 10.0.
All right, now I do have a video that describes this, right, in Module 4, and I'd like you to watch that video in the Module 4 folder, Tristan, but I'm going to explain it here as well, okay? But I'm just saying you can watch that video after you've seen my explanation.
Okay.
A bit fuzzy on it, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you've got this number here, 10, what does that mean? Well, actually, it's a number that lies somewhere in between, if we were to round it, between 14 and 5. So technically any number between 14 and 5 would be rounded to one significant figure, now to be 10. 10 dot, though, is a number that's between 10.4 and 9.5. And that's more reflective of the accuracy. You see that dot there? It makes that 0 significant. No dot, the 0 isn't significant. It's there as a placeholder. We need it there, but it's not a significant figure.
Okay.
So that means that the volume here comes out to be, well, first of all, 0 places past the decimal. I'll say 0 dp. But it also is going to be 2 sig figs. So that's why in this last step we do the division. and that's going to be 10.00 grams over 10 dot mils. And that means we need two significant figures, so it'd be 1.0 grams per mil. All right, does anybody have any questions? So Tristan, is that okay?
Yes, I'm understanding it a lot better.
Okay, let's do one more here. And this is one that doesn't involve subtraction. We'll do this one here that involves the multiplication. Now, for something like this, we've got so the volume here of the block is going to be 2.0 centimeters times, 1.0 centimeters times 2.0 centimeters times 3.0 centimeters. Now, I need to have at least as many significant figures as I have here. So we've got two. But in the calculator, you'd have to take it out to as many as it said. But I'll just say 6.0 cubic centimeters here for the volume. The density then is going to be the mass divided by the volume, which is going to be 12.00 divided by, I'm going to make it 6.0 here. But we would go back to the original problem here and look for the smallest number of significant figures, and that'll tell us how many significant figures will be in our answer. So it'd be 2.0 grams per cubic centimeter. But I'd take this out to as many sig figs as you needed to. All right, any questions? Tristan, you're okay with that?
Yes, I'm understanding.
Okay.
Thank you for breaking it down for me.
No problem. Does anybody have any other questions about Module 4? Any other Module 4 questions? All right, if nobody has anything, then we'll leave it there for the day. Now keep in mind, this is Module 4, it's due on Sunday. The next module is Module 5, which actually you get 2 weeks to do. Now you get 2 weeks to do it because it's long. What most people tend to do though, and I think it's unwisely, is they tend to treat this as this next week as a free week, and they don't do anything, which is very unwise. But you know, I can't stop people from doing that. So usually, because nobody does anything in the first week, I tend not to have a Zoom session for that first week. So there won't be a Zoom session next week. However, you can still ask me for help during the process, you know, during this time.
My school Zoom call. So here is your patient folder. So this has all kinds of dispensary stuff to read and look at. There's products, pricing, every dispensary in Pinellas County. If there's something in here
We can hear you.
maybe weren't from out there, because we have a lot more stuff out there than we do in here. This is just kind of adjusts from everyone. Feel free to take some, put it in the folder. Okay. Most dispensaries will give you a first-time patient discount. You can only get this card removed in a physician's office. So just make sure you hold on to that. If you ever lose it, you can just come back and we'll give you another one.
Oh my God.
Same thing, Curaleaf right here. If there's not a card in here, more than likely they're still going to have a first-time patient discount when you go. This is our Refer a Friend program. For everybody you refer, you'll get $25 off your reader.
Send her a message.
Sorry about that. All right. Took me a while to. I thought she was actually asking a question initially, and then I figured out, no, she wasn't even talking to me. Sorry about that. All right. Does anybody have any other questions?
Yes, but it's not really module 4 related.
What's it about, Benjamin?
It's about a missing quiz grade.
Oh, okay. Well, we can talk about that after the session here,
All right.
if you don't mind. Does anybody have any other questions about Module 4? All right. Well, I'll see you for another Zoom session in 2 weeks then. By that time, I'm hoping you will have done what you needed to do, at least get the assignment done. But you can still talk to me and you can still ask me questions and stuff during that next 2 weeks. I'm hoping you'll get a start on it though, so that you can be prepared and you can do well with everything at the end there. Does anybody have any questions? Anything else about Module 4 or? All right, so there is a test coming up too. Let's talk about that. Let's not forget about that. Let's go back to the thing here. So let's look at the syllabus.
With the test itself, you have to do on honor lock, but the practice test we don't have to do on honor lock, correct?
Absolutely not, no. And it's open book actually. The practice.
I was going to say we can do it as many times as we want, from what I understand,
Absolutely.
correct?
Yeah, and you get extra credit too if you get 80% on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did the assignment and then I got an 87, but I think you answered my questions because I was having problems with the Sig Figs. That's where I didn't do so well. But I think with Tristan's question, I think that answered it. Thank you.
All right, so test 1 is due September 9th. That's actually coming up. Yeah, so September 9th. Yeah, so I wouldn't expect anybody to be doing too much on Module 5 yet. But after you take test 1, I'd be certainly getting into it. Now you don't have to take the test on that day, but notice that the practice test closes on September 8th. Okay, well, at least the extra credit does. The extra credit closes on. The practice test will remain open, but the extra credit opportunity closes on September 8th. But you can do test 1 whenever you want. You can do it today if you wanted. Does anybody have any questions about that? Let's take a quick squiz at the test here. I had almost forgotten about it. I don't want you to forget about it. Okay, let's have a look. Okay. So as I've told you at the very beginning of the course, the real test is going to be the same as the practice test. Now you're going to get different things each time. Now notice on the practice test, I have the honor lock calculator link here. So what I recommend you do is open that in a new window. So it says open link in new window, and then push it over to the side. Push it over to the side, and then you can practice with it and the test at the same time. So that's how I'd manage it if it was me, so I could practice with the honor lock calculator.
Where is the honor lock calculator? I missed that.
Yeah, up the top here. Do you see the link to it?
Okay, gotcha.
Now on the real test, it's under a button. Okay, when you take the honor lock, when you take the honor lock version of the test, there's a scientific calculator button up the top. You'll see it though; it's pretty easy. I think on the practice test, I've got a honor lock practice test. You can take a look there if you're concerned about where the scientific calculator is. But I put this in here so you can practice. Okay. So you've got your reference sheets here, and it's going to be the same thing in the actual test. And you can expect very similar questions. Now for an exact range of questions, It's not that long either. It's only 12 questions. People don't usually do too badly on test 1. Let's go back here. So for a better idea of what is actually on test 1, look at the test 1 study guide. And it tells you exactly the kinds of questions you can expect. See, there are certain things like for number 3 here, you could be asked any of these questions. Group, period, valence electron, periodic table region, or relative sizes of atoms and ions. They're all fair game for question 3. So by taking the practice test a large number of times, you get to see all those different kinds of problems. And then this one here, number 5, ordering of elements based on electricity, electronegativities, ionization, or size. Ionization is your size. So any one of those 3 could be asked. But again, by doing the test multiple times, you'll get to see all different kinds of problems. So I would encourage you to look at that as well. I'm trying to be as transparent as possible. There's really no tricks here. The best way to study for the test is to do the practice test again and again and again and again and again until you're getting close to 100%. If you get 100% on the practice test and you get it done closed book, I don't see how you can fail the real test. It just doesn't seem possible to me. All right, any other questions? All right, well, you got your work cut out for you. You've got module 4 due by Sunday, and then the test will be due September 9th, but you can take it before that. The extra credit for the test closes September 8th. Benjamin, I'm going to ask you to hang around. Don't mind.
With Monday being a holiday, will you be available for questioning or no?
Oh, well, yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll have sort of limited availability. I'll be answering my emails and stuff. It's not like I'm just going to take the complete day completely off.
Well, I figured they didn't have classes on campus, so I wasn't sure.
No, but I'll still answer questions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no worries. Any other questions?
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry, Victoria?
sorry, for the periodic table, I have my own. Are we able to look at our own during the test?
No, because I can't control that. I don't know what's on it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
So you'll have to use the one on the screen. If you're worried about not being able to see everything properly, just use what kind of computer you want, Victoria?
I'm on MacBook Air. I think I can Zoom, right?
Yeah, you can Zoom. It's Command plus or Command minus on your MacBook Air.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay.
How do you Zoom on
the PC?
Yes.
Control plus or Control minus.
Okay.
But you can also use your browser as well. There's browser controls. So I think they're under the view. They're under view. Anybody, anything else here? Any other questions? All right, well, see you all later. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Have a good weekend. Have a good long weekend.
Thank you.
Yay. Don't go anywhere, Benjamin.
Thank you. I'm going to email you.
What's that, Melissa?
I'm going to email you. I had trouble with the quiz last week, and I'm sure you've seen it, but I was putting my Sig Figs in the boxes incorrectly.
Yeah,
I don't know why I was dyslexic. So
okay. All right. Well, I actually
kind of a nightmare.
I don't usually look at them unless people.
Okay.
I don't look at these unless people point something out, Melissa.
Oh, okay.
So, but
yeah,
I'm happy to.
It was a nightmare.
But I'm happy to. I am happy to.
Okay. That'd be great.
If you request it, I'll look.
Yes, please. Can you please look? Because I was devastated. to say the least.
Why don't you hang around for a second?
Okay.
It might be easier because I might be able to explain something with the screen, sorry, with the drawing thing here.
Okay. No problem. Thank you very much.
All right. Who else we got here? Let me see. Savannah. Savannah, do you have anything?
Yes. No, I'm good. Thank you. Sorry I came on a little late. I was stuck at work.
It's okay. Well, I'm recording it so you can see it, catch it on the rebound, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'll see you later.
Bye.
All right, Benjamin. What's your issue here? You said you had a missing quiz grade.
I think so. There was a quiz from, I think it was module 3 about significant figures that it says I have a 0 in, though I'm pretty sure I didn't get a 0 on the quiz when I took it.
Did you get, okay, let's go back to module 3. I'll show you something here. Might have misread something. Let me show you. You need 100% on the qualifying quiz in order to get to the credit quiz. So did you get 100% on this module 3 significant figure qualifying quiz?
That might be what happened.
Right. Because if you didn't get 100%, then the credit quiz won't open.
Okay.
And you won't get the points.
I'm
However,
pretty sure I got like a 99 point something because of a really small typographical error. And I was like, that's good enough. But I didn't realize that was the...
No, it's all multiple choice. Now that's all multiple choice.
That must have been a different thing. I'm pretty sure... Let me check my grade on that.
Yeah, look at your grades. I don't want to open up your grades in front of somebody else here, okay?
All right.
But take a look at your grades and then...
If you want, I could exit and then join back in.
Yeah, that might be a good idea, Melissa.
If that would be of assistance. Okay, I'll do that. I'll be back in like 5 minutes.
Okay, no worries.
All right, thank you.